Hey guys, this is a treat. I am backstage before Slipknot's gig at the O2 in London with Mick Thomson here. Thank you very much for joining us.
No problem.
And we're going to spend some time in here just chatting about life in Slipknot and what the band's been up to and what you're doing guitar-wise. And then we're going to go and check out behind the stage, look at some of Mick's guitars and amps as well with his tech. So, Slipknot now, we're over 20 years into this crazy journey.
25.
25 years. That's
Since
insane.
we started, yeah.
So we talked a little bit before we started rolling about just how the whole process has changed and stuff like that. But what are the big differences, in doing a tour like this now compared to the first, couple of tours that the band did?
Man, the first couple of tours, it's like, I don't know, you're struggling for anything. Food, sleep, it's just really rough when you're starting out, especially with a lot of people. It's like you only get so much money, and it has to, find its way to taking care of bills, and you don't eat well, and you don't have your own hotel room, and you're sharing a shower that gets all pubed up and stuff before you get in there. It's always something like. But it's so life's a lot cushier. There's not the struggle, but the struggle's not forgotten.
Right.
It's like. We still do what we do with passion, and so it's still there. It's just not as uncomfortable the rest of the day.
I can imagine. How soon was it when the band started that you'd have been playing to audience sizes like this? Because what are we talking? 20, 25,000 people coming to see you tonight?
Festivals.
Right.
Like if we did, our first thing we ever did was Ozfest in '99. So we were the second stage, whatever, and we rotated, so we didn't play in the same spot every day, but. I don't know what the biggest crowd there would have been, but we're in a fucking parking lot. But I know that overall the amount of people in there was pretty huge. I don't know if that was Sabbath's original final tour or what, but it was. Having Sabbath there was fucking huge. So
festivals must be.
Festivals are weird though because it's not for you. It's for everybody. So when you're pulling out with your own show, then that's when it really starts to feel like holy shit. Like look what we've done, because there's two bands playing tonight.
Yeah.
And not 43 on 3 stages. So
what was the draw then for Knotfest? Was it there must be something that you love about the camaraderie of a festival, seeing all these other cool bands?
I think it's great for the fans and it's great for bands.
Yeah.
We can put a lot of different bands that we would love to have on tour with us on something like that, where normally we couldn't just take out whoever. It's like fucking, get on the show, get out there and fucking. It's a lot of times trying to get recognition for some great bands that have just never got that much publicly. So it's I'm always really happy when we get some more underground stuff and death metal stuff that we can get on there that I would love to expose a wider audience to, because it's like I know from teaching guitar I turned a lot of kids onto death metal shit. They'd never heard it.
Yeah.
I play some stuff for them, let them take a tape home or something. They're like, holy shit, this is brutal. I'm like, of course it is. I wouldn't have given it to you if it wasn't. So it's I don't know. I love to try to do anything I can to get exposure for bands we love.
Yeah.
And so that helps. We get to put some cool bands on.
I read an article of yours the other day just talking about your 10, I don't think it was your 10 favorite albums. It was probably the 10 albums that, influenced you most as a guitar player. And there's nothing really death metal in there. Is that just because, in fact, there's nothing even, I was quite surprised at some of the, just how mainstream some of the music was. So where for you was that? Though? Well, you had a lot of Kiss records in there, and there was an Electric Six album in there as well, which I just thought.
Obviously we
were
deep in our career by the time I heard them.
Yeah,
they're fucking awesome.
They are.
Yeah, no, they're fucking
absolutely awesome.
Yeah, completely.
But Kiss seemed to be a pretty big influence, and
No, well, not. I loved them when I was a kid.
Yeah.
They weren't an influence. Like I don't sound like they sound. It was the same thing with Hendrix is the whole reason I started playing the guitar. He was a major motivator. My dad had one of the most amazing guitar record collections for a non-player. Like the shit that I was exposed to as a little kid. Being just a toddler and shit I'm hearing. So I grew up hearing Johnny Winter and Clapton and fucking Jeff Beck and fucking Hendrix and fucking, Cream and like all this great shit. And so it was hard not to love the electric guitar.
Yeah.
So I was just enamored with it. Like even as just preschool, I'm like, wow, And then so eventually, by the time I was 10, I was able to get a paper route and save some money and get my first guitar. But I wanted one from way before that. But it was like there was that incredible like era of late 60s to mid to late 70s. I mean, it's like Return to Forever, Al Di Meola stuff. I mean, my dad, all that kind of stuff. So for a non-guitar player to have Di Meola in his collection's kind of, not that common, but so I got to hear some of the greatest guitar players of that entire span. And how would you not be inspired? It was like, Jesus Christ, these guys are gods. I'd love to do a fucking thousandth of what they're, And so it's something to, it's motivational. So I would say, like, a lot of times it's like, what are your influences means what do you rip off, and what do you dick eat and try to fucking pass off as your own. I can hear anything. I mean, I could hear it. You can play some classical stuff. You play it just puts you in a place where, like, wow, that's amazing. I want to play. And what do? Really fast gallops and palm mutes, and but it's like it's an inspiration for you to then do what you do.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I think it gets misequated with, like what vein do you, like, what are you about to pigeonhole yourself by saying? But there's so much great music out there.
But I think that's the...
Like, I would hope that it would just it would fire you up and make you want to do something, but then that thing that you do should reflect you and not
it just sounds
imitation.
It sounds like our fathers had pretty much identical record collections. We're about the same age as well. So I'm guessing, grew up listening to similar stuff. And yet, your path as a guitar player took a very different one to mine. A much more successful one, I should say, as well. But what's the... I think I probably stayed closer to listening to Hendrix and Clapton and stuff, and that's kind of what inspired me to play. So what is it with your, the direction that the band's gone? Was it just guys that you met when you went to college? Is it the guys that you met in the band? Did something spark, and musically it just took a very different direction?
Well, I mean, I was in a band with Paul before Slipknot existed. We were in a technical death metal band. Mm-hmm. So I got in towards the end of that, and then we lost the drummer and never really got another drummer, and so we tried, wrote a couple songs with drum machines and shit, but we could never find a drummer and make that work in Des Moines.
Right.
And try to find a really technical death metal player in '94 in Des Moines. There wasn't many of them. So, so Slipknot happened while we were kind of just on, trying to figure out what we were going to do. So, I mean, I always brought more of a death metal kind of, aspect into the band. Paul and Joey love death stuff too, but I mean that's always been kind of where by junior high, I mean Hendrix, okay, so huge inspiration, yada yada. But then I got into like thrash and speed metal, Flotsam, Testament, Anthrax, Megadeth, Metallica, obviously, Exodus. And love that kind of fucking, thrash and speed metal playing. Then I got exposed to some death metal, and it was like, holy shit. Like, this is like everything I love about thrash and whatever, but faster and meaner. So I'm like, sign me up. If it's faster and meaner, then I'm
in your face. I can see you going back to that moment.
Yeah, no, I remember amazing. I remember. Because, I mean, Slayer was sort of a crossover, almost like death metal. I mean, a lot of black metal, a lot of death metal stuff sort of came from their more faster, frantic kind of thing. But then really expanded on that, So, I mean, you got like Deicide. Deicide's always been very Slayer-ish, right, but just to a fucking extreme. It's like, if you like Slayer, you should love Deicide, And but there's a lot of bands like that. But then all this huge, I mean, there's lots of jazzy playing and stuff. I mean, there's some really, really seriously trained players playing fucking death metal. So a lot of people just think it's a lot of fucking at all time. But I'm like, man, some of the fucking players are fucking insane.
Yeah.
And so that was then a huge inspiration. So, then I started playing, faster. And I was always like playing fast anyway because it's fun. It's like a challenge of yourself. Like,
right. How
fast can I play this? And then so when death metal's more along that speed anyway. Like, it just naturally sits right here. Perfect.
Well, look, so I'm very
conscious. We go on for years about
I'm slightly conscious of the fact that we have Jackson to thank for getting us in here. And so we really should talk about your relationship with Jackson and Mick Shannon. And we're going to go and look at some of your guitars in a minute. But this is one that we've got with us, which is the Pro Series. So one of the more affordable ones. Give us the rundown of that. I think you guys will see as this video evolves. Mick is a crazy enthusiastic guitar
Dork.
That's the word
Sure.
I was looking for.
Sure.
Yeah,
That works.
but like just. It's not just about the playing, is it? It's what is it? All the ingredients that go together.
Everything adds up
Yeah.
to what it eventually sounds
Yeah.
like, and also it adds up to like how can you play?
Yeah.
You know, like we were talking about a while ago. It was like I don't like a big clunky neck.
Yeah.
To me, it feels slow. They sound good. They track really well. Like on a record, a fat neck will sound nice, but it fights you playing. It's like if you want to play fast, you need less hindrance.
Yeah.
Right. So I like a little bit thinner neck. I like a wide, fairly flat,
Yeah.
radius on my fingerboard. This is a compound radius, but it's still fairly flat. And so you're shredding and what I like. To me, it facilitates the shit. Part of it could be like what I grew up playing, like a lot of wide, flat necks of the shredder era and stuff like that. Is just what always kind of felt like home to me.
Yeah.
This isn't like that kind of wizardy thing. This actually, my neck was taken off of like was it a fucking 87, 88 Randy Rhoads?
Cool.
USA. They did like this special neck for like 2 years. It was much thinner.
Right.
And so that's what I had it copied after. Was I played one and I fell in love with it, and then like none of the other necks felt like that. I'm like, well, what the hell is the difference? So they said, oh, it's this certain year of the neck. So it just feels like home to me. It's also what I had on my original. Back in 92, 93, I ordered a custom Jackson. Mm-hmm. I got like a 3-year loan and ordered a custom Jackson. I'm sure I still owe the company some money for that loan too, because I was like 19. So don't give a 19-year-old kid that much money. Anyway, so I ordered the guitar all custom, and I got that neck on it. So that was what, when I went to Jackson, I wanted that recreated. So I sent the guitar back to them, and they got all the measurements and stuff. And this is incredibly close. This is basically the same profile, outside of a slight flatness that I have in mine that are hand done, but it's the same kind of thickness. So it's very fast, very playable. Immediately, like just feels good.
Yeah.
Already feels worn in, and like as much as you can wear a neck in. I don't know, it's weird. New guitars sometimes feel like they don't play right, and after a while they just do. To me, this feels broken in, and it's where it needs to be right off the bat. Also, that I'm not doing the mega huge frets.
Yeah.
I did for a long time, except it's more like you're playing kind of a scallop thing, where you, especially like if you don't use high string tightness. Like I drop tunes, so I use fatter strings. But like if you have just a set of 9s tuned to E to this or something, with a super high frets, you can kind of push things sharp. So I dropped them down a little bit for this, as opposed to older guitars I've had.
Yeah.
Just a little more comfortable right out of the box. And then my bridge.
This is fascinating.
So this is a custom bridge that Jackson did for me. That is actually, it's basically like your standard Floyd style tremolo, except it's not a tremolo at all. It is simply a plate. So the routing is as deep as that is. I think you'll get a detail on stage here in a little bit. It's routed maybe a 1/4 of an inch, so you're not really losing any wood, hardly.
Yeah.
It's on the surface and there's a neck through. So the energy transfer here with the way this thing bolts down is just awesome. It's every bit as loud and sustaining as any Tune-o-matic or anything could be.
And it is weird because is it good? Does it feel natural for palm muting as well? And just
Well, and that's absolutely, it does. And that's what I like is the height is basically standard recessed Floyd. You got the neck set into the body is the same kind of thing. It's not too flat, but it also doesn't stick up. It's just enough as far as I'm concerned. So, and it's like I've got a lifetime of the feel of Floyd's. And I love that feel. Like you can really affect your mute a lot, and it's something I've been used to. As always, one volume knob, no tone, because a tone runs signal to ground and wastes your signal, and you're going to have it turned all the way up anyway, so fuck the thing, just get it off my guitar. I've always used a 3-way telly style switch, because I don't like the chance of a Gibson-y kind of thing to snap back in the middle or whatever. Very positive, and that's all you need. The volume's out of the way, but on stage you can hit it without you don't have to fight for it, but you're never going to bump it. Same thing with a switch. You'd have to be really weird to, I don't know. You got some fucked up picking if you're flipping that switch. But yeah, so I've always loved this style bridge, and so after, I don't know, it was a few months of R&D and whatever, Jackson made that for me, and I couldn't be happier. The sustain is absolutely crazy out of it. It just anchors it into the body. It says none of the wood's cut out. And then I don't know that a lockdown at the nut gives you more sustain. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. To me, I don't know. It's there. I don't know. It at least adds to the mass. You know what I mean? And everything affects the sound of the guitar. So it's just something I've always liked.
I had a great chance to meet Steve Vai 2 or 3 years ago, and I was really surprised in that interview how much technologically he developed the gem. You know, how many you see the gem and you just sort of think it's, I don't know, it's just like the crazy colors. I think almost become, that's all you think it really is. But he's, you know, there's so much more to it than that. And I feel like you don't get enough credit, I don't think, for what's gone into your guitar. You know, I mean, it's
very, very specific because I'm very specific.
Yeah,
you know
but
what I mean? Like
many artists just say, "Well, yeah, I use this anyway, so make it my crazy color and maybe use my pickups, and that'll be my signature."
Well, no, I mean that's what I've said. That's what I've said is I'm like, if I have anything out there, be it my pickups, my guitar, a speaker, my amp, like it's very specific for a purpose. It's not a coat of paint. Like I'm heavily involved in dialing and tweaking and the fucking with the gear.
Tell us about the pickups then, because you got these Seymour Duncan active pickups.
Yeah.
Where was that? Was that from a long line of using EMG, but just wanting to, you know, enjoying that vibe, but wanting to?
Well, it was. I used 81 and an 89 or an 85 or a 60 or an H. Like I rotated depending on, you know what, and I always loved them. And the first 3 records are EMG 81s. But they're not as musical. They're a little more compressed, and it's when you start venturing out and playing different passives. Most passives won't handle the low end without being boomy. Like I want it really tight and percussive, but still fat. So you almost have to have an active to be able to kind of get the best of those worlds. So Seymour came out with their Blackout, and I played the original Blackout, and the way they had approached it was a much more natural sounding active. And I thought it was. There were some things about it that didn't click with me. They didn't work with my playing and what I wanted. Basically, the bottom end was too fat and round and bulbous, and I couldn't, I don't like, if I pick really fast and really tight, I want it to be responsive and hit. You know, I don't want it to and wash out and bloom. I want it to go, you know. I want it to crack your ribs and not like shake your fillings loose. You know, it's the difference between, I don't know, machine gun fire and sitting at a stoplight with someone's bass turned up on their, you know what I mean? Like, there's kind of the difference. I wanted to tune that out. Now, that's great for some players and whatever, but for me, it just didn't work. So, Seymour made, I think it was like 4 or 5 different versions, at least 4, that I played on tour over the period of a couple of years. And we decided on the other one, but it was all made for the guitar, which is a, you know, maple neck through. In various forms. I do them differently depending on what the guitar is. I'll change the woods around, but it's always Eastern Hard Rock maple is the gist of it, and always mahogany, always ebony on my customs.
That's a great guitar.
And it's just, I mean, with that wood recipe, then you can kind of get, you know, they're all going to sound different because every tree is different, and every guitar, you can have 10 of these, and they're all going to have different qualities. It's just the way the fucking trees are. So, but these really do add, like, it's not, I've heard people say that an active pickup only sounds like the active pickup and you can put it in anything and it doesn't matter. They're absolutely fucking wrong. Right. It does not. Every guitar I have sounds different, and they all have my pickups in it.
Yeah. I've probably been guilty of saying that.
well, I mean, you could say that when things are really compressed, and if you heard a guitar in a studio and then there's all this extra compressed, like,
I think,
but if you're sitting there playing it,
that was an EMG observation. I think that were just that it did seem to take some of those sort of idiosyncrasies of each individual guitar away and almost give you a more consistent.
It does, but not entirely. Like, you're still going to feel and play a difference, you know, like with each guitar. Even with that, but that's what I said that's why I love the Blackout. Was it was more open, had more of a passive kind of vibe to it, but all of the attributes that I really need for tight metal playing come with an active pickup. Yeah. It's just one of those things. So we went active and just tweaked it for my setup. It's, you know, I mean, it fits my guitar woods. It also works with my amp, but it's not to say that it only works with my amp. I mean, I've changed amps now. the third amp that I've recorded and toured with. I was using my Riveras. Then the last record cycle, I used the Petrucci Boogies.
Which Riveras did you have?
I had my own.
Never have put that as a brand that would appeal to you.
Stop the camera for a second. I have my own signature model Rivera
really?
Knucklehead, a KR7, Knucklehead Reverb 7.
I've heard of the Knucklehead. I just didn't realize that was your signature.
I had a KR7 from 2004 till
and yet, Paul,
a couple years ago.
I always thought Paul Rivera was all about making kind of tweaked up old Fender.
Well, he is. Oh no, I mean he made the classic Fender that was on Beat It and shit and all. Like he took over Fender, their amp division in the late '70s, and got them back to being awesome and shit.
I never had that brand down as like a real kind of high game brand.
That was Volume 3 was still my VHT,
right?
And then All Hope Is Gone, and our last record were both the Rivera Knucklehead KR7s.
And what did you say you went to after that? Before
our last record I tracked with my Knucklehead Reverb,
right?
KR7, and but then live I switched to the JP2C Petrucci. Those Mark IIc pluses just sound fucking godly, and they sound killer. But it didn't sit with a band as well. I mean, I get when I get that thing scooped out, it sounds so good and amazing, but it didn't really sit in a mix as well, and it sounded great live.
Yeah.
But there were some things that I wanted to do different with it, and then I knew Mike at Omega, so I started working with him, and playing some of his early versions of his amps and stuff, and then that just fucking...
John Petrucci's another complete gearhead, isn't he? We had a similar interview. He came to us and, again, talked, and it was... I can't remember how long I think the batteries ran out on the camera. It was just one of those ones where it was just like, man, but again, I love it when... guys that have made a real success of their musical career are still this interested in the gear, because you must have people running around giving you shit all the time, kind of go, please use this, and it would be easy to just sort of go, take less of an interest. But
well, I don't know, when you're given the fucking keys to the fucking, like, you mean I can go in and I can actually fucking slice and dice every little tiny thing I want to be exactly that spec, like, borrowed from Steve Vai, thanks Steve. I had it when I was with Iowa, but it's, just my output jack.
Yeah.
It fits. It just works. It's just a solution, and that's what I look for. Is
that's
solutions.
That's going back to the
to make. How do you make something perfect?
Well, that's
there's no one thing for all people, obviously, and this is not just a metal guitar. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't just be approached like it's, it does metal and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, the neck pickup alone. I mean, I love those old neck bubbly sounding fucking solos like done on neck pickups from like the early 90s and shit. I never do them myself anymore, but it's nice to have. It does great clean tones. I mean, it's built to be a player.
Yeah.
I mean, it's made to play. If you're used to fighting a neck and fighting your guitar, try something different.
Well,
it's a hindrance, especially if you want to pick up your speed. Like, the more economy of motion you can have, the more precise things can be, like the faster and cleaner you can play something without fighting your equipment,
It's very cool, man. It's that for me, this whole meeting you and talking through the guitar, I'm going to see this guitar in a different light now, in the same way that I don't see the Gem as just a guitar that a Steve Vai fanboy would buy.
It's not a Strat that got some material ground off it to be pointy.
There's
a lot of stuff.
He's really
there's a lot of stuff that's in there.
And I think I'm going to look at this guitar in a different light now. To me now, it's just a very cleverly thought out guitar.
I would really like you to obviously you can delete this. No, when you got some time, seriously play around with it and hear to sustain it. And this is it's not in tune anymore, but
no, I want to.
Coming from Indonesia, this thing you can fucking play this and be like, boom, like there you go. Like you wouldn't go, oh, that's a signature model that was made in whatever. That's street prices under $1,000. You wouldn't know it. Because these are my actual pickups. These are my fucking handmade in Santa Barbara, California pickups. This isn't like a cheap knockoff to go in the thing that has the same kind of, like, this is the actual fucking pickup that I use. It's on every record since we've developed them. It's so it's the same pickup. It's the same sound. It's the same woods,
Wow.
So, and it plays so very close, especially with a setup. I mean, this is just from the factory. But you get in with a setup and you can tweak it. I mean, I like my action really low without making any noise. Yeah. I raise it slightly on stage because I hit kind of hard with adrenaline going. But man, at home, these necks, even the imports, they set up so low and perfect, and with the additional reinforcement in them, in the neck, I mean, you can get really, really low, and you don't have any problems fretting things out. And with the radius of the fingerboard, flattening out as you go up too, so you can drop that action, and you can get bends, sing, and they don't smack the fret in front of them, but you get a little bit more curve here for playing chords. It's, I don't know, it's like a perfect solution to everything as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so we are now in the bowels behind the stage of the Slipknot stage. I'm with Mike. Mike is Mick's tech. And I'm loving the fact that pretty much everyone I've met so far is either called Mike or Mick, so I'll try not to get them confused. But as well as being Mick's tech, you're also an amp maker yourself as well. And for this tour, Mick is using your amps, so I guess we might as well start there and take a look at the Omega line.
Absolutely. This is the Omega Ampworks, the Obsidian. Mick's actually kind of crucial in development of this amp early on, getting it back and forth to him, and him checking it out, because we are a little bit new to the amp game. And he's running both the Obsidians just one at a time. One on the bottom is a backup.
Right.
And it looks like a complicated rig, but it's actually fairly simple. So the amplifier is a 2.5 channel. It's clean, a crunch and a lead.
Yep.
Crunch and a lead share the same EQ. Full MIDI controlled. And
what was your background in amps then before you started making your own?
So I actually went to school for industrial design engineering, and I started studying acoustics back in 2010. We actually started the company in 2010 as basically just kind of a hobby, building speaker cabinets, because that's where we felt the most benefit could be had from further development. And a couple of years later, we started developing amplifiers, and it's myself and another gentleman named Eric Hockenberry, who has a much longer background in amplifiers than I do, but yeah, together we kind of started the line.
So the rig is simple. There's no sense of any kind of wet dry style rig. It's just one amplifier. Obviously, there's some pedals and some outboard here, which I would expect. You're doing all the patch changes?
Correct.
Here, are you?
Yeah, we're using the RJM Mastermind GT22, and I'm handling all of the patch changes, whether it be the actual patch changing multiple pedals or multiple effects, or just hitting a pedal. So it makes life very easy.
I've always felt that's kind of, there must be quite a lot of pressure on you as a tech to, where so has Mick got any pedals on stage?
No.
So you've got to do everything. You've got to know exactly when in each song you've got to have the right.
Correct.
Not done via MIDI, or as in it's not pre-programmed via MIDI.
No, they don't play to a click track. So it's all on us techs. All the guys do it, and at first it was a little nerve-wracking, but.
Well, let's have a look. Does it? I mean, this does. I've been backstage once or twice, and I've seen guitar players with like 10 shelves of pedals. So this doesn't look kind of. Although there are some amazing stuff here that you wouldn't. My God, I haven't seen a GX 700 by Boss since I was about 20. Which for people will know it's a long time ago.
This is actually how Mick gets the sounds from the first album, from some of the crazy effects that he has.
I see.
It's the only thing. We've tried different things. These are the only thing that do it.
Man, that's so cool. So you've got some sort of stereo, or is that just a backup?
It's just a backup, yeah.
I see.
It's a fairly simple setup. So we're using the Shure Accent Wireless, which is absolutely incredible. Of course, the industry standard, the Peterson Strobo rack. The Radio JX44 is just a distribution center, so we have both amplifiers, and we have all the wireless packs. The 2 Notes Torpedo Live is essentially another form of sound out front, because we do use a 4x12 inside of an ISO.
You've got an isolated 412.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
And honestly, it plays as a backup when myself and Alex, the bass player, were designing the rigs.
That's so cool.
This plays as a backup in case one of the speakers blows. We have this.
I'm just going to say hello to Aid. What are the chances? So, pedals.
Yes.
Do you know what? There are some cool pedals here as well. The plasma pedal is such a great fuzz.
It is an amazing pedal.
And you're using, that's the noise reduction, isn't it? I think,
correct.
From the
yeah,
Zool.
the Zool is
But I'm less familiar with. So you're using a bass sort of fuzz pedal then for guitar?
Well, the bass balls is actually an envelope filter.
Oh, okay.
So it's used for one of the songs, and it kind of gives a little bit of a wah sound.
And the other one's a Seymour Duncan pedal.
And this is new to it, the Earthquaker Devices Plumes pedal, which is that's one of my favorite overdrives in the market right now.
So you're getting really like 95% of the drive from the amplifier and just using these
Correct.
to kind of just fatten
Plumes,
it up a bit.
Yeah, the Plumes comes on in solos and different trill parts, but his main rhythm tone is just straight into the amp.
Let's have a look underneath here.
Yeah.
We've got, actually, I thought that was some little TC reverb pedal.
No, this is a gentleman he sells on Reverb.
Right.
It's Dead Effects. That is one of the gnarliest sounding fuzz pedals that I've heard, and he makes incredible stuff. It is just a little monster. Then we have, this is a newer company, Nanolog. They actually use different types of diodes. They use carbon for the diodes. I won't go into all the nerdy stuff with it. Sound cool though. The Wampler Tumnus is another form of pedal, overdrive. Yeah. And everything is powered by these Chuck's power supplies, which are
a Danish
absolutely
company, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, they are absolutely amazing.
Very,
They're
very
actually
highly
powering
regarded.
a lot of the other stuff as well.
Oh, cool.
So
I guess I'm assuming he obviously does have a wah on stage.
correct. Yeah, he has one wah on either side of the stage. We run a nice long loom out there, and that's pretty much it.
Well, this is awesome. Thank you very much for taking us through that.
Absolutely.
Good luck with your amps. I may even contact you about retailing them. Who knows?
That would be amazing.
So this is the isolation box with the 412 in it.
Correct. This is the actual cab that Mick recorded the new album with, and it is loaded with two of his new signature speakers that are released by Eminence.
Oh, cool.
They'll be out next month, and then two of our OEM speakers as well. And we're using a Biodynamics M160 and a 4050 microphone, and
that's
phenomenal
great.
sound.
And, I guess the isolation box just does something that, as clever as all that kind of two-note stuff gets, there's still something fat,
Analog,
isn't there,
and
about just miking up an enclosed.
Yeah, it's really the push-pull nature. It's the feel of it in your hands. It's always going to sound a little bit different. As good, like you said, as good as the digital is getting.
Yeah. Is that on stage? Is Mick basically just getting this into his foldback or in here?
Yeah, he doesn't wear ears. That's all just coming through the monitors and the side fills.
Wow, I love it. Super old school. Anyway, let's go take a look at Mick's guitars. So, we're here with your guitars backstage. There's less than I thought there would be. Do are you keeping things pretty simple in terms of using the same guitar for as many songs as possible?
Well, exactly. I basically run the same setup every night. I start with my carbon. It's the easiest thing to see in here.
That's great.
All real carbon.
You've got the torch, haven't you? This is the way to go.
Yeah.
I should have bought one.
It's
Look at that. And so where it's black around the edges, that's just a finish. It's a completely solid carbon fiber guitar.
No, it's my normal recipe of Eastern hard rock maple.
Right.
Like 3-piece laminated neck, graphite reinforcement rods in it, and mahogany sides.
Right.
But they did a solid carbon top.
I see.
So it's like they have to take it. They do the carbon. They have to make a mold of the top. They layer it up with epoxy resins. And so, think of like a Formula One car. Same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same basic thing. It's just a veneer over the top, but it's real carbon. And
it looks fantastic. I bet it catches the light as well in a cool way.
Yeah, no, and that's what's really cool about it. Is it was like I've always wanted to do a carbon guitar, but I had one previously with Ibanez, but it didn't turn out exactly like I wanted.
Right.
But that's because it's tough. If you work with it like a material, like if you lay it over it and then try to hit it with a gloss, that's not how it's supposed to go, and the clear coat soaks into it. So it's,
right.
It was a hell of a process, but Mike Shannon got that made for me. Because it was funny, Mike Shannon at Jackson, we talked about it one time backstage at a show, how I wanted carbon, whatever, but I just never ordered it. Her as a pain in the ass. Never went any further than that, and then I get a phone call going, "Are you going to be home tomorrow?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they wouldn't say what, and I opened the case, about to shit myself. I'm like, fucking wonderfully realized from our conversation. I love it. So I start pretty much every show on this tour with it, and then I switch to my green one.
So the next one in is green. This is the one that you were literally just saying.
It's kind of blown out from the flashlight. It looks like it changes the green with that kind of intensity. But yep, so that's a dark metallic green, and then I go with my Stormtrooper white and black. I end the show with.
Right.
So, and then I've got my black one is for our A songs currently. I mean, I switch them around depending on what the tour is and shit. But the interesting thing is, like, when we change songs in our set, there's some songs that I've only ever played on the white guitar.
Yeah.
So if you look at it, because I have inlays I use on the sides. I don't have, like, fret markers.
They're great inlays.
Yeah, I had them inlay blocks so you can see it on stage really easily.
I like the way it flips as
and
well.
My newer ones are actually done with a glow, but that's the problem though. Is see the difference there. If I go out and play a song that I like, all of our touring so far, I played like a bunch of our new songs only on a dark neck, and then I went out in rehearsal and tried to play it on that, and you're looking down and it's like the opposite. It's like
that must be
it's like a photo negative of it, and you look down, you're like, what the fuck am I doing? And I was like, no, immediately I was like, okay, we're gonna change guitars differently. Like we gotta run this different, because it's a head fuck when you actually look down.
I love it. And your fans will be super pleased to know that one of the guitars that in the rack is not one of the custom shop ones. It's just a regular production guitar.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, I could go out on stage and play it, and you wouldn't even know it.
I love that about how good some of the production guitars actually are.
Exactly. It's for a long time it seemed like overseas produced guitars just weren't kind of holding up.
Yeah.
And in the last few years, not just Jackson, but I think lots of companies have really started to hit much better. I mean, think about the early Japanese stuff that was kind of brushed off, and now we pay tons to find original stuff, and so they definitely made their stuff great, and they're getting way better.
Yeah. Tell us about the Seymour Duncan relationship as well, because I'm loving the fact that you're obviously such a massive gear nerd, in the sense you're so into all the details. So it must have been cool to work with him to make some pickups.
Oh, absolutely. We had like 4 or 5 different revisions we tried, and we were doing it. It was All Hope Is Gone touring,
right?
And so I had the time to tune it. So I'm getting input from front of house and from my monitor guy, and I'm obviously hearing what I hear, and then I can hear live the show back. And so it was a great chance to to pick the brains of front of house. Go, what are you getting out of this? Like, this one's a little dark, whatever. Okay, so we'll pass on. Like, it needs to jump out of a mix, and needs to fit a lot of criteria. But they're all done based around my same guitar recipe. So it's like ebony fingerboards. I'll do my necks differently sometimes. Sometimes it's I would do a Babinga 3-piece with the Eastern Hard Rock Maple, Wenge. Like, I've just done a bunch of stuff, trying different ones. But the body's always mahogany.
Do you think in another world or in a different life you'd have just been a guitar builder?
I would fucking love to be a guitar builder.
I get that sense.
Yeah. When my back won't work and my neck won't fucking turn again and whatever, maybe that's what I'll do.
Well, that would be cool.
I would love. Well, I mean, I kind of love what I do, and I don't want to stop that anytime soon. But yeah, making guitars in the future, Jesus, that'd be a dream. Yeah. So here's what's great about this: is it feels like a Floyd. It's nice and low, and so it feels comfortable, like I'm used to playing on any kind of Floyd guitar. Even though for years and years and years, anything I had with a Floyd, I've stopped. I either would shim the sustain block with wood that I would tap in and glue and get it set like I wanted, or you could use a deck screw. And then that way you can adjust your height. I mean, there's companies now making solutions and shit, but I seriously could have one screw, and all you do is you move it, you fine tune it, whatever, you get it so it's set flat. But this, you don't even have to mess with any of that stuff, and it doesn't knock a hole in your guitar.
That's great.
It's just absolutely solid. So this thing, it's just a little bit of a route right here on the top, and you can even see underneath it there's an anchor in the back.
Yep.
And it's just a flat plate.
Sorry,
and it just mounts right there, and the sustain is incredible.
I was going to say, because that's what I do.
And you have the metal of the nut. Okay, so I love having the lockdown nut. Even if I'm not locked down, I still like to have that metal nut. It's just something I always had, and it's a sound I'm used to.
Yeah.
Like every little bit does affect the sound, and I love that. So what you do, or what I do, is I beat the shit out of my strings, stretch them, just stretch the shit out of them.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you lock them down, and then you got your fine tuners. And I hardly ever even have to retune anything. These necks are stable as hell. There's 2 graphite rods running the length of the neck, in addition to the double expanding truss rod. So I mean, Jackson has one of the best truss rods in the game anyway. And then to reinforce it with graphite rods, I mean, it's just stiff as shit. Eastern Hard Rock Maple is also what they use in pool cues. It's as stiff as you can get, really. And so, I mean, the sustain's incredible. Ebony, obviously very hard, leads to that rigidity. So I have a fairly thin neck, profile that I use on all my guitars.
It's not Ibanez Wizard thin though, is it?
No,
It's like...
but it's and this is actually, I mean, they're all hand done on the neck finishing and stuff. So this one's actually slightly chubbier than like the black one's probably. My A guitar is probably thinner.
Let's compare that to the either the green one or the black one.
If you grab that black one, this one should have. Yeah, that's gonna be one of my older ones. It's one of the first ones I had done. So that's gonna have a different bridge. You can see how our original solution was to this. Right. So this has a Floyd.
This is a modified Floyd, isn't it?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And here's what we did.
Right.
They did a very small route, and we tapped the sustain block and put in heavy bolts so you could adjust the pitch.
Yeah.
And then once you get the plate, exactly the level you want, then you go in with a wrench and you finally tighten it, and it spreads. You don't want to do it too much, or you could actually split the wood.
Yeah.
But it spreads out into there, and then that way you have all of your energies going right through it, because you can get that in there really tight. And these have massive sustain too. My flat plate, the final version of my bridge, actually has more sustain than this even does.
So is there any sense of a trem block on the other one going into the guitar, or is it just surface mounted?
Absolutely surface route. Right. The surface route's like that deep for the whole bridge, and then the rest of it's just, I mean, it's like a quarter of an inch route down in the body.
Yeah.
So you're not really hardly losing any wood, where this still knocks a hole. But you can see what our first solution was, and Jackson came up with that, and it was a great idea, because it's much more sturdy than a single screw, just sort of, you know.
I'm interested I saw some G&L bridges once where the idea was, although it was a top mount solution, there was still kind of like a trem block, but that was exactly routed into the wood. So the idea was all the transference of energy from the strings into the string block were being sort of pushed into the body of the guitar. It's almost kind of like this, but where the cavity would be exactly the right size for the trem block.
I mean, same kind of thing as I had a couple guitars when I was a kid. I don't know, in my teens, I had one that had a Kaler on it.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, a big heavy chunk of metal. I mean, there was a route, but it didn't go through the body. And then all the bolts, screws bolting it down to the body, like those had pretty good sustain too.
Yeah.
The problem is just when you have just these two knife edge points on a regular Floyd is the only thing going through there. And then we have all that extra wood knocked out. I mean, normally it's wider, and then it runs all the way through here, and you just lose all of this, mahogany and maple, and it's like every little bit. That's why fat necks, I don't like fat necks, but they sound great in a studio. They sound really big and fat and full.
Yeah.
But I like the playability, but that's one reason why I play a thinner neck than what is currently trendy by a bunch probably. But there's so much in reinforcement that you can push and pull on the thing, and it's just stable as shit. So, and when I'm slamming on stage, like, I'm not a small guy, so I tend I push and pull with it, and it's just there's like no flex. I'm not pushing stuff flat, and I'm not pulling stuff sharp. It's and the sustain is incredible. Like, you can hit a note, like in the studio when you're sitting in the control room, so you don't have much volume. The cabinet's not allowing it to sustain. You just hit that thing and let it go. Like these things, even with this type of system to fix the bridge, really increases the duration of that.
Sure.
And then my flat plate, my new final version of my bridge, it's even longer. It's just crazy. And that's what one of the guys at Jackson, who works in the factory, was saying. He's like, I've never ever heard a soloist sustain that long. I'm like, fuck yes. That means we did what we were out to achieve.
That's wicked.
So
man.
So we nailed that bridge is
brilliant.
Yeah.
This is so cool to see all this stuff.
And those are all made by Mike Shannon, who made Randy Rhoads' Concorde V.
Yes.
And that's another thing. I couldn't be fucking prouder to play those. Mike Shannon, such a great dude, and fucking such a history. Like the ultimate metal guitar builder, really.
Isn't he?
Yeah. No, it's living fucking legend.
It has been such a pleasure you taking the time to meet us and be on camera. I've really, really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to going and seeing some of the guitars as well behind the stage. But thanks, man. It's been an absolute pleasure, and honestly. Our door is always open. If you're passing through Guildford and you want a cup of tea and talk some more shit about guitars, it is always open for you, man.
I might have to take a flight over here.
It'd be great if you did.
It'd cost me a shit ton of money too, I know.
Well, maybe we can help cover that. Anyway, catch you later, guys. Thanks ever so much for watching. Cheers, Mick. It's been a legend. That was great. I so super enjoyed that. That was awesome.
No, seriously though. Fucking, you got to take it for a test drive sometime.